What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Kryptonian saying here, bringing you guys another review for Black Clover chapter 332. And after 3 months of waiting through one of the biggest cliffhangers and plot twists in shonen manga this year, Tabata has finally come back to give us that Black Clover greatness. And wow, this was so worth the wait. Not only do we get a time skip after the events of the last manga chapter, but we also have a few major twists that occur in this chapter to show that Black Clover is heading into this final arc with full gas on the pedal right now. This chapter starts off with the Underworld 7th Gate and Lucifero mumbling about having the strongest magic, no doubt brooding after his loss to Asta in the prior arc. It's at that moment that Lucius shows up and proceeds to have a very short but savage conversation with Lucifero, in which he tells him that what he's saying isn't necessarily wrong, but he does remind him that in this world, humans have the most superior magic. It's at that point that Lucius snatches out Lucifero's heart and literally eats the heart, and then we jump into the time skip where we learn that everything that we knew this before has now changed. Asta is now being made into a senior magic knight, which might not seem like a big deal. However, here's the thing. Asta is clearly Wizard King level. The man can solo the entire Magic Knight squads and everybody in the Clover Kingdom if he wanted to. And 2, he's still a step behind Yuno because Yuno is now a Grand Magic Knight. However, while everyone else is gathered for Asta's big day, there are some people missing of note. That is because Yuno is away on a mission to investigate the mysterious devil activity on the borders of the Clover Kingdom, entering into the neutral zone that exists in the space between the continent that separates the Heart Kingdom, the Clover Kingdom, and the Diamond Kingdom from the Spade Kingdom. Now, we as the audience know that any suspected activity that is rooted in devil anything is likely because Lucius is acting in the shadows, but Asta and the other Magic Knights are not aware of this fact just yet. Though with Yuno out there investigating everything, and given how smart Yuno is, there's a chance that he's going to be one of the first ones to figure out the very same truth that Damnatio did, which is that Julius Novachrono, our beloved Wizard King, disappearing and having activities in the neutral zone are connected because Julius is actually Lucius, the sibling of the Dark Triad who was teased and revealed in the last arc. Damnatio has been presumed to be missing for over a year now, and so due to this, the devil trials that Asta underwent have been halted. However, in the midst of all this going on, so too has Julius disappeared in the eyes of so many people. However, we as the audience know that Julius isn't missing, but in reality, he was the fourth sibling of the Dark Triad, and that Lucius is the Time Devil. And when Damnatio discovered all this, he was killed off in the last chapter before this time skip. Getting back to the ceremony though, Tabata is clearly setting us up for the chaos at the end of the chapter because there are way too many feel-good moments that are meant to soften the blow for what's about to come at the end of the chapter when Asta is confronted by Lucius. We see the Magic Knights as they're watching Asta's promotion. We see Noelle and Mimosa blushing like crazy when they're watching Asta, no doubt thinking to themselves which one of them is going to be Asta's wife and have his kids, which opens up the door for what's coming at the end of the chapter when it comes to the other affairs of their heart when it comes to Asta. Yami gets told that Charlotte is in love with them, and Yami, like usual, goes to take a dump, and while he's doing so, he's thinking about the information that was just told to him about Charlotte. Nero then goes around and trolls Noelle and Mimosa that Asta is getting ready to confess his love to somebody, which the two girls clearly think that's one of them. Meanwhile, we have people openly wondering if Julius going missing really isn't just Julius in disguise and hiding himself, which in hindsight makes Lucius' whole plan that much more insane because the Wizard King has gotten so much of a reputation for going missing on the drop of a hat that so many people, they're just okay with it. And while it might be a concern to some, there's enough complacency here that people are just willing to accept that the Wizard King is just missing. This is a brilliant 500 IQ move right here. We have Asta openly wondering if the next Wizard King might be Fuego or Nozel or even Marileona, and while each of those are solid candidates to be the Wizard King, the truth is that we can clearly see with the opening of this chapter for this arc being used to be a setup for a mirror situation at the end of the arc, where in the opening of this arc we see Asta being promoted, the Wizard King is missing, Yuno is away from the Clover Kingdom, and when we get to the final chapter of the arc, it's likely going to end with Asta being promoted to fill the role of Wizard King, and Yuno likely leaving the Clover Kingdom to take his birthright as the King of the Spade Kingdom. That much is a clear setup for a bookend for the beginning and end of this arc, but it's still done so brilliantly because we as the audience know that right now Asta's being prepared for that toughest challenge yet in order to get us to this end game, and it's going to come with him having his dreams crushed when he learns the truth about Julius's disappearance. However, we're still clearly a ways away from that. The fact that Fuego tells Asta that there are still people who are extremely distrustful of the devil power is a sign that Asta has a lot of work left to do. And his inevitable clash with Lucius after the truth about the Wizard King is revealed is likely going to be used to get Asta over in the hearts of those people in the Clover Kingdom who still have some doubts about him, which is a good time to talk about the other matters of the heart that we have in this chapter. Asta has taken his newfound confidence of being promoted to being a senior magic knight and growing a few extra inches to where he can now look Sister Lily in the eyes face to face without having to stand on his tippy toes, and he's now confessed his love for her. However, it's then that we get Sister Lily thinking back to Asta as a child, and Sister Lily doesn't just hit him with the friend zone knockout punch. She hits him with the triple combo of death. She says she doesn't just view him that way romantically. She also says that she views him like family, and not just any type of family. She views him as a little brother. There's no recovering from that one. That's worse than the friend zone right there. She basically hit him with the "I changed your diapers" line, and Asta just took it on the chin. While we as readers know that Sister Lily wasn't going to break her oath as a nun to get married to Asta and start a family with him, it's still nice to see that Asta needed to shoot his shot one last time before closing that door on that dream of his and finally moving away from the gag of Asta being in love with Sister Lily. Becoming an 18-year-old man didn't change her view of him, and when Asta becomes the Wizard King, that's still not going to change her view of him. And I like that Asta is beginning to accept that. Asta then tells her that he knows that the heart of a person can't be changed, a clear sign that our lovable knucklehead has begun to mature. But he then goes on to state that he's going to become the next Wizard King, and it's right there that all of our feel-good moments have essentially been upended, because Lucius appears at the scene of Asta's conversation with Sister Lily, and he tells him that he's reached the end of the line, and he congratulates him, but he makes it clear that this is the end for Asta. Outside of the fact that Lucius popped up like a G, pretty much clapping after Asta got rejected and basically saying, "You're about to go from broken Valentines to broken bones," this is a serious problem, and it's a much needed moment right here. Asta has grown strong, incredibly strong. He's arguably the strongest person in the Magic Knight squad. However, he's now about to see the difference between himself and the man who everyone was deceived during the time that Julius was seen as the Wizard King. The fact that Tabata is about to rip off the band-aid this quickly for Julius in the Lucius reveal means that going into this arc, no punches are about to be pulled in this final arc. That's not to say Sister Lily's going to be killed by Lucius. I don't think that's going to happen, but if Asta is the first one to see Lucius, then we can only imagine what's going to happen when Yami and William see him. We're getting right to the chaos, and I'm all for it, because this arc has the potential for Black Clover to be taken from what a lot of people view to be a good manga to this final arc. If it's handled right, it's going to have the potential to sneak up on a lot of people and get the respect that a lot of Black Clover fans have been saying for a long time it actually deserves. The main question of why Don Matteo's disappearance hasn't been looked into more seriously, it hasn't been answered yet, but there's a chance we learn more about this with concrete info later on. The idea of Lucius being the final villain, it really works, because considering we can now conclude after this chapter he's eaten both halves of Lucifero's heart, with the first half being given to him at the end of the last chapter and likely eaten off screen, and the other half being eaten in this chapter, Tabata setting the stage for this final battle and how Asta reacts to this truth, what the circumstances are that lead to him surviving this battle with Lucius, and how William and Yami react is going to be so much fun moving into this arc going forward. While the idea of more people who trust Julius being caught off guard by Lucius, similar to how Don Matteo was very appealing, this works so well to have him pop up on people like Asta when they least expect it. The calm before the storm is finally here, and if you're a Julius fan like me and you still haven't recovered from the last chapter, this chapter just absolutely ripped your heart out. But the final arc is here. So what are you guys' thoughts in this chapter? Was this an effective way to set Lucius up, or could it something have been done differently?